Right everyone, it is Finn here. Welcome back to a brand new Premier League prediction video where today we are going to be telling you about every game coming your way in Premier League Match Week 12. Now yes, you would pick up on the fact that I did say we, and no, that isn't a French tribute to the brand new Ballon d'Or winner, but today I've been joined by Jordan Buhrs.
What's up Finn? Thank you so much for having me on your channel. These are obviously our Game Week 12 predictions. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to Finn, make sure you go and subscribe. He's producing quality content very often, and ahead of this World Cup, you won't want to miss anything.
Thank you so much, Jordan. I really do appreciate it. Guys, please do make sure to check Jordan's channel in the description down below. He does some amazing things on his channel. I feel like if you like my content, you will like his. But jumping into our first game of Premier League Match Week 12, we have Brighton versus Nottingham Forest. Now, before I give you my beautiful predictions on what could be a really exciting game, Jordan, take it away.
Now, the Brighton versus Forest game, I think there's only one way that this goes. Yes, Brighton are coming off that 2-0 loss against Brentford. Forest are coming off that 1-0 loss against Wolves. But for me, I'm going for a 2-0 Brighton win.
Thank you very much for that, Jordan. I think I tend to agree with majority of the things you're saying. I think Brighton should be the outright favourites here, despite the fact that they lost their previous game. Looking at them versus Nottingham Forest, I'm not quite going to go for a 2-0 win like you said. I feel like Forest have potential to score, but Brighton by far have been the better team, and it should be a 3-1 win. I mean, looking at Brighton, they've only lost 3 games this entire season. Mental to think about, and funnily enough, all 3 to London clubs. I guess Brighton just don't have the London eye to beat teams like that. But versus a team like Forest, although they have potential to have fantastic games, they're just not getting results.
Crystal Palace taking on Wolves. Now, we saw Crystal Palace struggled against Leicester last week with that 0-0 draw. Wolves coming off a nice win. But for me, I think this is a very tight game. I'm going a 1-1 draw.
Ooh, okay. Very interesting one from Jordan there. Once again, I think I tend to totally agree. I think the one problem about me having a guest when it comes to prediction videos is when I have the exact same prediction, it just seems like I'm copying them. But Jordan, I 100% agree with you, and I just have to go with the 1-1 draw. I think looking at this Crystal Palace team, they definitely have something special within them. Looking at Wolves though, they were fantastic in their previous game, and Adam Traore, who is he? Am I putting English tax on him? Adama Traore looked like his old self. I think Wolves had a brilliant performance. I can't split the difference between these two teams, and I also tend to agree that it could be a 1-1 draw. Now heading on to our next game, we've got Bournemouth versus Southampton. Once again, I think Jordan really summarized it perfectly in terms of his prediction.
Now, Bournemouth and Southampton are both coming off draws. A 2-2 draw for Bournemouth against Fulham, still undefeated under Gary O'Neill. And then Southampton impressed me against West Ham with their 1-0 advantage going into halftime. But then obviously they drew 1-1. For me, I think this is a very tight game. Either side could win it, but I'm going to back a 1-1 draw.
You're joking. Not another one?
Now, although, yes, I do agree with a lot of the things that Jordan said, I don't quite think it is going to be a draw. I think looking at Bournemouth, I think in terms of their form, they have been absolutely phenomenal. Ever since their 9-0 loss to Liverpool, they are the only team in the Premier League since that time to stay unbeaten. Absolutely incredible to think about. Looking at Southampton, they have been dreadful in the Premier League. I mean, even in their previous draw versus West Ham, they definitely weren't the better team. They should have lost that game. And versus a very informed Bournemouth team, I think we could see a 2-0 win here. I mean, which you shouldn't say versus Southampton, considering their growth over the last few seasons, but it is happening.
Brentford versus Chelsea. Now, Brentford coming off that impressive 2-0 win over Brighton.
Are you not entertained?
Was semi-lucky, but there's nothing lucky about Chelsea's form at the moment. Another victory for them in the Premier League. Graham Potter's doing outstanding things for that Chelsea team. There's no other way I see this than a Chelsea win. I'm going 3-1 to Chelsea.
Now, this is going to become a very common occurrence in this video, but once again, I totally agree with you, Jordan. I do think Chelsea will win this one. I don't think it will be quite as big a gap as you said. I do think it will be a 2-1 win. Although Chelsea won their previous game 2-0 versus Aston Villa, I don't think they were phenomenal in that game. I do think Aston Villa definitely had their moments, and versus, let's call it, a very special Brentford team that could produce something magical, but I still think Chelsea will win it. Liverpool versus West Ham next, maybe one of the biggest games this Premier League match week, and I just think looking at these two teams, Liverpool should definitely take it. I do like West Ham though. I do want to say that they were phenomenal versus Southampton in their previous game, and they were absolutely robbed of a win by the referee. I mean, it sounds like every excuse whenever a team doesn't perform well that it is the ref's fault, but this time I am serious. But looking at a Liverpool team that were phenomenal versus Man City, I can only see Liverpool winning. I mean, if you can keep a clean sheet versus Phil Foden, Erling Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne and so many others, you should be able to keep a clean sheet versus Skamaka.
No, he's got a point.
Let's see what Jordan says.
Liverpool versus West Ham. Now, Liverpool seem to be back. King Salah is back with that 1-0 win over City. It probably should have been 2 or 3-0 if Darwin Núñez wasn't so selfish and if Salah finished that goal against Edison. I don't think West Ham have any chance against this newly informed Liverpool team, so I'm going for a 2-0 Liverpool win.
Newcastle United versus Everton next. Now this is going to be a very, very interesting matchup. As we know, Newcastle United have been playing some seriously attractive football this season, but not necessarily getting the results from those games. Looking at Everton, they've really improved since the beginning of the season, and although yes, they've lost their last 2 games in a row, it's versus Tottenham Hotspurs and Man United. Very, very difficult games, but unfortunately I do think it will be 3 losses in a row. As I said, Newcastle United playing some very attractive football, and if they can convert it into wins, they can be a very, very dangerous team, and that's why I think Newcastle will win it. Let's see what Jordan says.
Newcastle versus Everton. Now, Newcastle managed to hang on to that draw against Man United over the weekend. Everton didn't impress me against Tottenham. I do think Newcastle are the better team here, so I'm going for a 2-0 Newcastle win.
Now it is time for arguably the biggest game of Premier League Matchweek 12, Man United versus Tottenham Hotspurs, 5th versus 3rd place. This game will be absolutely huge. And as both Jordan and I are Man United fans, we'll try not to be too biased, no promises. Jordan, you talk about them first.
Man United taking on Tottenham, the biggest game of the weekend. I do think this is going to be very, very low scoring. We know that Conte for Tottenham likes to play from the back and offset pieces. Erik ten Hag is not going to fall into that trap. So I'm going for a 1-0 Man United win.
Very well said, Jordan. Once again, I tend to agree. I mean, I'm a United fan. Of course, I'm going to end up agreeing with you. But looking at these two teams, it will be incredibly close. I will say, though, I'm tremendously worried about Antonio Conte in terms of managers out there. He is one of the best in the world. But as we know, Tottenham Hotspurs are still very Spursy. They can lose weird points here and there. Exact same goes for United, but I do think United will take this one. Once again, Tottenham Hotspurs have been brilliant this season. At this point of the season, they've got more points than they ever had at this point of a Premier League season. They have been monstrous. I am terrified of a game like this, but you know what? Man United fan, I have to back my boys. Looking at them versus Newcastle United, I do feel like to an extent, maybe we were robbed of a victory. We weren't bad in that game.
Absolutely robbed of a win by the referee. I mean, it sounds like every excuse whenever a team doesn't perform well, that it is the ref's fault, but this time I am serious.
Second final game of the video, we've got Fulham versus Aston Villa. Now, I will say, looking at Aston Villa, although they haven't been getting wins as of late, they were actually really, really good versus Chelsea. I actually think Aston Villa have been playing really good football over the last few games, but they're just not getting the results for it. They are just not scoring those goals, which versus a very, very good looking Fulham team, it could cause a few problems. Looking at Fulham, I'm really happy Mitrovic is added back in the squad. I do think this has potential to be a very close game, but looking at Fulham, what they've proven to me so far this season, they should be the favourites, and I'm going to predict a 2-1 win. Let's see what Jordan says.
Fulham taking on Aston Villa is also another interesting one. We spoke about Fulham's 2-2 draw against Bournemouth, and Aston Villa coming off that loss against Chelsea. I do think Fulham have the slight edge in form and quality in their team at the moment, so I'm going for a 2-1 Fulham win.
And that takes us to our final game of Premier League Matchweek 12. Guys, don't forget, if you have enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe down below, because, I mean, it makes sense if you ended up enjoying it, along with subscribing to Jordan. It helps both of us out. But talking about the final game, Leicester City versus Leeds. Now, normally when I head into predictions, I have a score written down on my notebook, but this is the one game where I don't have a score written down, because I have absolutely no which way of knowing how this is going to go. Leicester City, I've got no idea what's going to happen to them this season. Normally you go through a honeymoon period, but at the moment they seem to be going through a divorce period.
John, I want a divorce.
And versus a Leeds United team that can be very, very dangerous on the counter-attack. They were not bad versus Arsenal. This could be a very, very close game. But once again, just from small moments that I've seen from Leicester City, they weren't bad versus Palace. They just didn't get the result. I think Leicester City could take this one 2-1. Although if it ended up being a 1-1 draw, I also wouldn't be surprised. And for the final time of this video, let's see what Jordan says.
Leicester versus Leeds. Now, Leicester were very underwhelming against Crystal Palace in their 0-0 draw, but Leeds definitely impressed me against that Arsenal team. Made them work very, very hard for that 1-0 win, and Leeds missed a penalty. So for me, I do think Leicester are the better team, and hopefully they click. I'm going for a 2-1 Leicester win. Finn, thanks so much for having me on. If you guys haven't subscribed to Finn's channel, make sure you do so, and I'll check you guys in the next one. Peace.
Once again, thank you so much, Jordan. Guys, I hope that you did end up enjoying this video. Please do subscribe to both of us. It helps both of us out tremendously. Once again, it also makes sense if you did enjoy the video that you start watching more of our stuff in the future.
No, I don't think I will.
No plug intended, or I guess plug intended. You know what? There's no shame in it. But guys, I hope that you did enjoy the video. Don't forget to put your predictions down below. It's always interesting to see what you guys said. But guys, until next time, this has been Finn, FYNN, and Jordan. Cheers.